After the nail-biting end of the UFC 284, Islam Makhachev took home the title of the world's best pound-for-pound fighter, denying Alexander Volkanovski the title of being a double champion. Many people found Islam to be the well-deserved winner of the championship, but some fighters had some not-so-nice things to say. Nathan Diaz in particular seemed to be very taken aback by the result. Diaz congratulated Volk before the result was even announced. When it turned out that Islam won the championship, he had this to say in his tweets. "Yeah, right, Islam got his whooped." According to Diaz, the championship should have gone to Volk, even though the judges unanimously agreed that Makhachev won the fight. A lot of fans think it's important to mention the beef that Diaz has with Islam Makhachev's mentor, Khabib Nurmagomedov.
There's the choke. He's got it. It's under the neck. There it is. Nope, it's on the chin.
There's the tap. Still undisputed. Khabib Nurmagomedov.
His stance on the winner might be influenced by his personal dislike toward Khabib and his student, but no matter what he says or thinks about Islam, the champ has been decided and he can't revoke that. Diaz was far from the only person who wasn't happy with the champion being Islam. Another person who seemed skeptical of Islam being the winner of UFC 284 finals was Cody Garbrandt. He had this to say about the fight: "Let's run it back." Cody isn't the type of person who would speak something that doesn't hold true. Despite any beef he had, he always congratulated his opponents and kept a very calm demeanor. Whatever Cody's remarks were at the fight, it's obvious that he is not an expert at judging a UFC championship fight, so his words have no effect on the greater result of the series. The result of this fight upset a lot of people, and according to a huge majority, these inaccurate results were not because of the fighters. Most people think the judges were inadequate. There's no one that understands the sport better than those who partake in it. If the fighters agree that the result was unfair, then it does feed into the argument of the judges not even knowing the world of the ring. So it isn't totally wrong that the fighters are criticizing the people that judge them in a sport that they might not have ever participated in.
We're working off of that jab early. Oh! Knocked down for Oliveira now. Now a knee to the body for Charles and a right hand. Chandler retains it. Now Chandler is down. Charles Oliveira.
John Wayne McDacey was one other fighter that showed that he was upset with how the fight was judged. He said this in a recent tweet: "MMA needs to appreciate defensive fighters. Judges got no clue." Though these criticisms are anything but unwarranted, the set of rules by which Islam is the champion is more or less straightforward and formulaic. The masses might not appreciate this take, but it is on Volkanovski that he didn't think of fighting in a style that would better suit the liking of the rule book. Some people did take the appreciation for Volkanovski to an extreme, though, making sure that Islam felt sorry for winning the fight. Fans of Islam were heartbroken to see that despite the blood, sweat, and tears he put into his career, Islam was booed for winning. And he responded by saying one of the coldest lines ever in UFC history: "Whether you like it or not, I am the best." Islam has worked towards winning the UFC championship his whole life.
Makhachev trying to set up a submission here, DC.
Yep, and these guys do combat sambo their entire lives, so if you present an opportunity to get a sub, it's over. He'll go get it. There it is. He's got the arm.
And there's the tap.
Another big finish for Islam.
And now that he's finally won, he's being bombarded by all these fighters demeaning him. Despite all the stabs that were taken at Islam, some of the fighters also have a bone to pick with Volkanovski. Many critics have shown their disappointment by calling out Volk for not winning, even though he was full of potential to do so. Bilal Muhammad in particular made a notable stab at Volkanovski. In a recent tweet, he said this: "Volk is still P for P number 2. That was FOTY, fail of the year so far." This comment acknowledges that Volkanovski has the potential to be the champ, but he fell short.
Herzog standing by, giving Elkins every benefit of the doubt. Where's the horn? They go to the grounds. There it is.
This might be hinting at the judges failing, though. Keep in mind that this information is being gathered from just the fighters' tweets and is no further elaboration. Nevertheless, this is some criticism towards Volk, which is unnecessary as his performance in the ring was a feat and a half. If we put the criticisms of each fighter off to one side, there is no denying that a huge majority of fans are hungry for a rematch. Like many other fighters and fans alike, Leech Letson also contributed to the demand for a rematch by tweeting this: "I need to see a rematch ASAP." These tweets might snowball into something bigger, resulting in the fans getting what they're aching for. Most of the remarks on this fight were maybe a bit angrier than they needed to be, but some fighters like Rakic and Darren Wynn are actually happy with the results, and they were congratulating Makhachev. There is no doubt in the community that this was a fight for the ages, and thus there was a huge amount of appreciation from the other fighters. Aljamain Sterling had tweeted something similarly positive and worth mentioning about the fight. In his tweet right after the fight, he said, "What a big round for Volkanovski, the highest of levels, and that right hand that dropped Islam was perfectly timed."
Volkanovski heading him off on the pressure. Typical. Nice left hand. Massive right hand. And he hurts him. Sits him down.
I still think Islam wins this, but what a fight. Sterling apparently agreed with the result, but he did remark that the performance put up by Volk was amazing. He expressed his thoughts in a way that didn't take the spotlight away from Islam, but he still made clear that homeboy Volk was nothing to scoff at either. Henry Cejudo also went ahead and displayed his appreciation for the fight. He said this on Twitter: "Respect. That was one of the most competitive fights in the history of the sport." Henry said what the majority of UFC fans were thinking, that all in all, this fight was one of the most spectacular in history. At the end of the day, both the fighters put up a spectacular show, and it would be nice if more people just appreciated these fighters more instead of getting angry at the result. Both the fighters seemed to be okay with the result. The only thing that might have hurt the fighters was the reaction from the fans toward Islam after he won.
Decision, and still the undisputed UFC lightweight champion of the world.
Continuing the streak of appreciation, here's the tweet from Sodiq Yusuf saying this: "Not mad at that at all. Great fight, man." There's a good chance that this is a sarcastic tweet, but let's pretend that Yusuf was giving some much-needed positivity to this situation. Keeping the trend of ambiguous tweets, Kevin Lee said something hilariously remarkable. Wow. Just raw astonishment? At the fight? At the judges? At the fighters? We don't know. We just know that Kevin was starstruck, and we love it. Kenny Florian said this in a recent tweet after the fight: "Volk deserves a rematch if he wants it." Have a great night, everybody. See you on @AnikFlorianPod. There's much to talk about. That was a brilliant super fight. No matter what the result, the UFC 284 has given us one of the best displays of MMA capabilities that we have ever seen in a championship.
Kind of a stumble from Islam, but it doesn't matter. Hit the ground all the same. So overhand left to a trip for Volkanovski on that one. And he's really picking up the pace now.
Both the fighters put on an incredible show, and this was truly a match to be remembered by UFC fans everywhere for the ages.